free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below.
Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to some 800% Silverline booster gameplay. You know that feeling when you activate a booster and you already receive that placebo effect that the match you're about to play is going to end up in a complete disaster and the booster activation kind of cucked you? I never have problems with that. Probably because I've reached the end of the game and there's nothing else for me to really research, and the principle that I follow is I just activate the booster whenever I unlock it. So if it's a daily reward, or if it's from the random box you receive after winning certain games, I just activate it straight away. Whether it's friendly booster, 10, 15%, whether it's Silver Lions or RP, I just turn it on and I don't think about it too much. It's a little bit of additional RP or a little bit of additional lines that in the long term won't make a difference. But by focusing on trying to maximize the amount of reward out of it, often enough results in me performing worse than I would if I were just normally relaxed. And I noticed the exact same thing happened often when I was recording YouTube videos. You would sit down, press record, pick an aircraft you want to play, and the matches you play just wouldn't be as good, because if you're playing the match just for the sake of getting footage, chances are you won't get good footage. So instead, the approach I take is I try to play the aircraft as tastefully as I can. The stat cards of premium planes or any vehicle in the game are very, very misleading. There's particular altitude at which the stated numbers are focused at. There are certain numbers that never really add up. The turn radius, for example, is based off of the rudder turn, not the elevators. I think the best way to test an aircraft and see how well it performs is by actually flying it and making mistakes so that you learn and adjust with the process. So if you've just unlocked your first premium plane, or if you're flying something out that's stock, don't feel bad about screwing up. That's the easiest and most efficient way of improving. And yet the funny part about the LA11 is that it's based off of the LA9, meaning that I wouldn't really have the need to go and test it out too much. I know how the LA9 performs, and I flew it out before I went to fly the LA11 to have a bit of a comparison. The LA9 is fast, it's maneuverable, it's got great armament, and it has a mediocre matchmaker. That's the only problem with the LA9 is that as a 6.0 super prop, it reliably will face up against jets. And it's not that it can't face against them, it just makes it a little bit less enjoyable. However, the good old dogfights against Griffin Spitfires and Bearcats, nothing can beat that. But for somebody who just unlocked their LA9, and the LA9 is stock, the engine's overheating, they got stock belts loaded up, they can't seem to get the guns on target, they're struggling to fly the plane, the LA11 looked to me as a stripped-down version of an aircraft that is basically the jack of all trades. So why not approach this mentality of flying it in the exact same way you would fly an LA9? So I decided that the easiest way to conduct an exam here was to simply push the plane to its absolute limits. The roll rate is slightly worse, the turn rate is slightly worse, you trade one gun in, so you only have 3 of them, and yet the plane is nothing more but a stripped-down version of the LA9, which is, if I have to dub it, the jack of all trades. And this one is at 5.3, so what we're looking at is a stripped-down LA9 with slightly worse performance that doesn't have to be spaded, that fights in a very friendly matchmaking environment, and it retains most of the virtues of its bigger brother. Yes, please. And to see if the flight performance would stand up to my expectations, I tried a couple of different tactics, but really I'm going to stick to my good old-fashioned one, which is aggressive, flying, and rushing into the enemy. The reason I do this is because if I know the plane can perform in defensive maneuvers, then I don't feel in too much of a bad position if I'm not, above the enemy or at a high speed. I can make that work. As a matter of fact, I find it a lot more fun to play the game when you are not in the advantage. You see, American planes are fine, for example. If you climb up to a decent amount of altitude and then boom and zoom your way down, it's fun. But I like that extra added bit of challenge. I like to push myself to the boundaries of where some people might even refer to it as stupidity. But, if it's stupid and it works, it's not really that stupid. Words of a wise man who once played War Thunder. And as for our first engagement here, we got a Spitfire Mark 5C who is above us, he's got superior altitude, and yet he doesn't seem to really know that very quickly that superior altitude can be abused. Little trick. if you're chasing after a plane, just going into a zoom climb isn't the smartest thing to do. But what the Spitfire could have done here is gone into a zoom climb himself. Chances are he would have stalled that on top of me and got a very easy frag. Instead, he performs a set of rolls, which only slow him down even further, and instead of trying to, dive away, he does it at a convergence of just 400 meters. And with a 300-meter frontal mounted nose cannon's convergence, it's still 323s, and let me remind you that the 23mm performance has been massively improved over the past micro patches, which means don't get hit by 23s. And yeah, that was a very easy first kill and a very boring beginning to a overall quite interesting match. We haven't reached the peak of the match though yet, so at the moment there's a B-17 trailing towards our airfield. There's about 3 fighters right now at a medium altitude of about 3 kilometers. There's 1 Spitfire killing ground targets. It's a pretty classic scenario in an American team on alternate history Berlin. And I was thinking about diving down there. I mean, there's plenty of aircraft up at altitude. I maybe was going to go for the B-17. I thought nothing of it. I mean, in my mind right now, I'm thinking, great, another boring match that I can't use as footage. So I go into a slight incline. I'm thinking here, should I go for the B-17, maybe turn around? I was about to engage a dive, and just before pulling on the elevators, I spot a Spitfire at the same altitude, heading my way. This is what I've been waiting for. A 1 versus 1 at pretty much, mid to high altitude. We're at 5K here, and I'm curious to see what the Spitfire will do. Now, to notice here, I just came out of a turn. I'm going at about 300 to 400 kilometers per hour. He has the advantage in both altitude and speed. The way I approach him is in a bit of a fake head-on. I thought he would surely have committed with the 420mm he's got. He doesn't. Instead, we both kind of pass each other and go into a left-hand turn fight. And whilst in a matter of 3 seconds I could figure out that the Spitfire was going to outturn me big time, there's something that every plane possesses, which is the control of flaps and your throttle. And this is what we're going to use for the duration of this dogfight. What you're about to watch is a clear scenario of scissors. What we're doing is we're continuously passing each other by using our speed and energy to change states. There's a few things I want to do. I want to drop some altitude, so I go down to about 4,000 meters. I'm trying to increase the engine performance on my plane, and I want to make sure that I don't dive all the way down to the deck, because that would be a waste of my own energy, and also a potential indication that I'm baiting for my team. Notice I did not put any smoke up. I do not want any help right now, because I don't really need it. I think I have things under control, and all I have to do is make sure the Spitfire doesn't hit me, make sure the flaps are always deployed, and I know how I'm working with my throttle. The idea here is to make the Spitfire overshoot, and it didn't take long. You see, it's very quick to panic in such scenario, and it didn't take for me too long to get back up onto his 6. The only issue here was that the second problem was going to come in, which is my aim. Whilst I do think I'm not a piss-poor shot, aiming 23s that are mounted on top of the fuselage with a roll rate and a turning Spitfire Mark 5C can prove slightly challenging from time to time. But as I'm in a 1v1, I'm not really being oppressed by time, nobody else is engaging me, I can really take all the time in the world to slowly work on the Spitfire. And the important bit here is that we went from 5,000 meters, where the Spitfire had a slight altitude and speed advantage, all the way down to the deck, or around about 1.5 kilometers, where I'm now solidly on his 6, and with most, if not all, the advantages. And as with any dogfight with 2 equally or quite similarly performing planes, it's only a matter of time before one makes a mistake, and the Spitfire went up into a vertical maneuver. The problem of that is that the slower you're going, the less responsive your controls will be, meaning that if he wanted to somehow evade my shot on the top of that loop, it would have been borderline impossible. And kudos to the Spitfire pilot for actually keeping up that solid scissor, because usually what happens is teammates interfere, or the enemy rolls in, or it's a 2 versus 1. It quickly becomes a bit clusterfucked. It's extremely enjoyable to have those solid 1v1s, not in a custom battle, but outside in the actual normal matchmaker environment. And to kind of retrace what the idea of rolling scissors is careful control of your throttle as well as the flap use. You're using all of your control surfaces. You're trying to make sure that the enemy follows you because they're confident they can shoot you down. Make sure their guns can never properly reach your aircraft. And then when they're, right next to you thinking, okay, I'm about to have them just one more turn, you force an overshoot and you revert the position in the dogfight. And I'll put it this way. You may often find yourself comfortable by being on somebody's 6. It's usually the preferred position. You want to be behind someone because you know that you have the advantages and there's very little chance for them to shoot you down unless they've got a gunner. I noticed myself, though, that there's this psychological challenge where if you are in front of someone and they think they have all the advantages, they have the speed, they have the guns, they may have the roll rate or the turn rate, you kind of put them into this, false sense of security, only to then reverse them and execute them in an extremely nice way. Now, in the following days, I'll try to, find some more footage as such, because I have plenty of moments that showcase that. It's hard to obviously make individualized videos, but there really is something about a proper reversal, and you can see it right here. The P-51D went in a very nice dive. However, he executed the zoom maneuver in a relatively straight line, making sure that the LA-7 could have long-range sniped him, and that is now the second to last remaining player executed from the match. And now all that's left is a B-17 that we did not engage previously, which is now slowly returning back to their airfield. And to kill a B-17, there's always a couple of different ways. Bombers either go for the tips of the wings to tear them off and force the bomber into crashing, go for the engines and send them on fire. But when you have the option of attacking the bomber head-on, nothing comes quite as close as forcing a sweet head-on pass, killing the pilot, and ending them in a very easy, cost-effective way. And as such, whilst the LA-11 might not, reach up to the performance of the LA-9, and whilst I have noticed that it feels significantly heavier in the roll rate as well as in the turns, it's far from a useless plane. If anything, it is extreme amounts of fun at a lower BR, meaning that it has a bit more of a friendly matchmaker. I think it's perfectly balanced, and for a first-time premium aircraft, compared to the LA-7, it definitely is a suitable choice. As for the LA-7, it comes in at 4.7, so you might want to wait for an individual review of that to know if that might be more your cup of tea. But if you have the LA-9 and if you like it but struggle playing it stock, perhaps learning with the LA-11 could actually be an option to then proceed to the LA-9. However, I can't guarantee that, as obviously I have both of the planes unlocked and I'm not about to start a new account and try it out for myself. Anyway, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed, and as the start of the video and probably the title do kind of suggest, if you do struggle with the boosters, or if you struggle by this, effect of self-thinking that you have to perform well just because you activated a booster with a certain amount of percentage, you may be able to ease the pain or ease the stressfulness by simply activating it regardless. By not taking it to heart and by not stressing out about it, you might just be able to pull out a match with little to no effort in the LA-11, get 3 kills, and rank yourself up 500,000 lions. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.